and welcome back to the gallery with me, Robert Cooper, who is the curator and host of this series. Now, if you've been watching the gallery for a long time, you will know that I have spoken about my film cameras in the past, and I said that one day I will do an episode where I talk about my film camera collection. In front of me is all 8 of my various film cameras that I do shoot with. Now, when it comes to digital cameras, I am strictly Nikon. I shoot with several different Nikon bodies. Now, when it comes to film cameras, I have absolutely no allegiance. And as you see, I will shoot with any company. For the most part, my collection is split between Canon and Nikon. But I do have a Pentax K1000 here. Now, when it comes to me shooting film cameras, I personally only want to shoot with a 50mm lens. I don't know why, I just like 50mm lenses on film cameras. Only 2 of these cameras don't have 50mm lenses, but I still swap them out with 50mm lenses from time to time because that's my preference. So I'm gonna go through each and every last one of these cameras and talk about what I like about them. And I'm also gonna show you some photos that I have taken with each of these cameras. So if you're interested, hang around and watch this episode. And if you're not interested, so what? Still hang around and watch this episode. The first camera out the gate is the one that's not a Nikon or a Canon. It's the Pentax K1000. Now, if you show this camera to either your parents or your grandparents, they're immediately gonna say, oh, that's the high school camera. When it came out in the 70s, and because of how easy it was to use, high schools often use this camera to teach photography with. When I started shooting film photography, I got this camera from my friend Natasha. She let me borrow it. I just haven't returned it. And this was the first camera I used when I began my film photography journey. And here are a few photos that I have taken throughout the years with this Pentax K1000. Now we begin with the Nikon section of my film collection. And this right here is a Nikon FE2. This is one of my favorite film cameras that I own, but it does have a problem. The advance doesn't stick. So every time I use this camera, I have to remember not to keep advancing it until it's time, because it will not stay in place. And here are some photos that I have taken with this Nikon FE2. Next up is this Nikon F2, which is a beast of a camera. I'm pretty sure if you don't have a hammer, you could probably nail something in using this damn camera. It's so damn chunky and heavy. I don't use this camera that often because there's something wrong with the meter. You have to I have to hold this down really tight so that the meter works. And since I don't like using a light meter, I don't care if it's on my cell phone or if it's the one that you hold up, I just don't like using a light meter. I like the meter inside the camera myself. So I don't quite often use this camera, but when I do use it and when I'm able to hold this down and the meter works, I actually enjoy shooting with this big chunky ass camera. And here are some photos that I've taken with it. The last camera of my Nikon film camera collection is actually my favorite. It is the Nikon F100, and I like this camera because lately I really enjoy shooting with these autofocus film cameras, these last hurrah of the film cameras from the late 90s, the early 2000s. I actually like these. I know it's not the coolest thing because most of these film camera people, they like to shoot vintage cameras with the manual advance and got the old vintage look, but I like the fact that I could swipe out my lenses that I use for my Nikon digital bodies and put on this camera, and I'm good to go, and it operates just like my D800s, my D750. So I really like shooting with this F100. I would have liked an F6, but I don't have F6 money, so the F100 will do me fine. And here are some photos that I have taken with this camera. I have photography zines for sale. If you are interested in purchasing my photography zines, I will leave the link in the description below as to where you can find and purchase my photography zines. Here are my photography zines, starting with Elements, which is my documentation of hip hop over the past 15 years that I've been a photographer. Then we have Night Scene Kingston, photographs that I took when I went to Kingston, Jamaica back in 2016. We have Unapologetic with my beautiful wife on the cover. And this scene is a documentation of beautiful Black women with natural hairstyles. Captured on 35, which is appropriate for this episode because these are photographs that I have shot with my film cameras that we just spoke about. Then there's Stage Show, my photography of dancehall and reggae concerts between Hartford, Connecticut, New York City, and here in upstate New York. And last but not least, scenes from the 313, which if you do not know where the 313 is, it's Detroit, Michigan. So these are photos that I've taken on various trips to Detroit, which Michigan is my home state. I'm actually from Lansing, Michigan, but Detroit is a city that I hold dear to my heart. All right, this is the first camera in the Canon section of my film camera collection, and it is the Canon AE-1 Program. And this is one of the cameras that doesn't have a 50mm lens on it. This one has a 35mm to 70mm lens on it. Now, I actually bought this camera for $20, and I've used it for maybe a couple years, but recently the shutter is not working. The shutter release is not working. Everything else is working. The meter, I look in it, but it doesn't release, see? So I gotta take that to get it fixed. In the meantime, check these photos out. Now we have the Canon A1, and I really like this camera. I bought this camera for $10, and it works very well. It's in great condition. I love the look of this camera. It's got a 50mm 1.8 on top of it. It's got the dreaded Canon cough though, which also my AE-1 program, if the shutter release was working, you would hear that that also has the dreaded Canon cough. Well, I call it the dreaded Canon cough. Everybody else calls it the Canon squeak. I call it the cough. And I call it that because when you shoot it, it's got a squeaky sound that you can actually have fixed, but it really doesn't affect the photos, so I don't really care if it makes the cough or not. So maybe I get it fixed, maybe I won't get it fixed. And as you can see from these photos, despite the cough, it still works very well. Now, if you've been watching the gallery, you will recognize this camera because I did an episode talking about this camera all by itself. This is the Canon EOS 50E, which is what is named in European countries. In America, this camera is called the Canon EOS Elan 2E. And in the episode, I spoke about this wonky eye control feature that's on here that's supposed to, when you look, or wherever you look, the focus points are where you're looking. For the most part, it works, but other times it's just annoying as hell because you might not be looking somewhere, or you might look and it starts going to the direction you're looking, even though that's not really you just seeing something out the corner of your eye, and now you got to refocus. So it could be a pain in the ass, but it's still one of my favorite cameras because, as I said before, I'm liking these autofocus, auto advance cameras. Here are some examples taken from this camera. Last but not least is this chunky beast of a camera. If you thought the F2 was a fat bastard, this one is an even fatter bastard. This is the Canon EOS 3. And just like the 50E, it also has that wonky eye control focus feature thing. But unlike the 50E has 3 focal points. And this one has like maybe 40 something, I think, I can't remember. But just like the 50E, it sometimey when it works. It's not always the best, but it's not as annoying as that one because I can easily just turn it off. Whereas that, I have to figure out how to turn off the eye focus in the 50E. This is one of my favorite cameras to use, even though it's heavier than a son of a bitch. But the autofocus on this is really fast and snappy. And I bought it with the battery grip. And for the most part, you can buy one without the battery grip. But I don't have the part to make it so that the battery grip, or that it can operate without this battery grip. So I'm stuck with the battery grip and it's making it heavy, but I still love this dumbbell of a camera. And here's some photos that I've taken with this camera. Those are all of my babies, all of my film cameras, my beautiful babies that I use to take photos with. I mostly use those for street photography, but sometimes I'll do a photo shoot using these film cameras. What is your favorite film cameras? What are some of the film cameras that you guys are shooting with? Let me know in the comments below. Also, what are your favorite film stocks? What do you use when you're shooting film? Me personally, my favorite film stocks are, I like the Japan Camera Hunter black and white. I like Kentmere 400. I like HP5, of course. And a lot of my photos, to be honest with you, are shot on that cheap ass Fujifilm that you can get from CVS. It comes in a pack of 3. It used to be $18, now it's $30. So what I do is I wait till I have a 40% coupon or I have some extra bucks and I will buy the film from CVS. If you want to see more of my film photography, follow me on Instagram at rcoopershootsfilm. Also make sure you follow my main page, which is rcooperphotography. And if you want to watch this on Instagram instead of YouTube, you can watch this at R. Cooper, The Gallery, also on Instagram. And one last thing, make sure you stop by my website, which is robertcoopermedia.com. Until the next episode, I thank every last one of you for tuning in. Blessed love.